Welcome back. The night before the primary, and we are joined by Wayne TV political analyst Mark Souder. Obviously, the big race is Richard Mourdock, Richard Lugar, and we had this Howie Politics poll come out last week that had Mourdock up by 10 points, and you're thinking this is going to be really tough for Lugar to come back from. You've been in these situations before. I don't know if you've ever been 10 points down, but you know, you've thought about this sort of thing before. If you were strategizing for a campaign that was in this sort of shape, what would you be doing these last few hours before the campaign?
These are the critical days of the Wednesday, Thursday before the last weekend. For example, in Joe Long, when I ran in '94, she was incumbent, was way ahead. I caught her, passed her.
This is Joe Long.
She counterattacked. Right. I put my mom up. We stabilized it and then closed. It's like arm wrestling. You're going like this, and when you get your arm bent back, recovering is really hard. So I think, given the numbers underneath the poll, which included that 1/3 of the voters in the last 7 to 14 days developed an unfavorable rating of Lugar, given that Lugar's favorable was 43-43, Mourdock now passed him in favorable to 47, but his unfavorable only stayed at 25 with all the negative ads. And then Brian Howie and DePaul, in their poll, added one other thing. They questioned the results so much that they polled 50 other people outside the normal system and found out they were as much for Mourdock. So when you're going into those last 5 days with all the trend lines, it looks like the arm was bent already.
Too much to overcome, you're saying now. Senator Lugar is doing his best to project an air of confidence. We talked with him yesterday when he was in Fort Wayne, and here's what he had to say.
I'm confident that we're going to have a good result, and I'm not going to predict the margin. I would be grateful if we didn't have a margin.
Okay, so he says he's confident that they're going to prevail. Then he says, I'd just be grateful if we have a margin. This is really interesting. There are a couple of things he can't do anything about, and one of them is the fact that he's 80 years old. He's been in Washington for almost 36 years, and how large does this loom in the average Republican voter's mind? This is a factor he can't do anything about, and you hear a lot of people saying maybe it's just time for a change.
Well, there's arguably a third that ideologically are more conservative than him, and Mourdock's ads have partly addressed that. There's arguably at least a third that admire his views and what he's done and his skills. The other third appears to have joined with the broader group that says, we like Lugar, but he's been there too long. That's reflected in things like he's been here, I think, 5 times in 10 days.
Here in the Fort Wayne area,
in
right.
the media market. I don't think he's been here. I tried to go back. I was just talking with a statewide reporter. I know he was at the Whitley dinner in 1994, and we kind of zeroed in that perhaps in the 2000 race he was at a Lincoln Day here, and once in a while he would do a quick press conference. But he's trying to do what he can, but you can't bail out lots of years of not coming around and seeming out of touch in 5 days. Now, the Get Out the Vote campaign can turn out your base, but his problem is if the new people coming in and if a third of the voters have changed since they first identified them, turning them out, maybe turning out Mourdock people.
And I know he says that his campaign staff has made 1.5 million calls. It's going to be interesting to see the margin. It'll be interesting to see if the polls hold up tomorrow. We're going to know very shortly. Mark Souder, I know you'll be here with us to watch.